The wedding dress that changed everything. The autumn rain drummed against the shop windows like impatient fingers, washing the golden leaves from the maple trees and sending them spiraling down the empty street. Inside Miriam's bridal boutique, dust motes danced in the afternoon light, settling on silk and satin gowns that hung like forgotten dreams. The shop had been quiet for weeks, another casualty of the big box stores and online shopping that had slowly drained the life from Main Street. At 72, Miriam Chen had weathered many storms, but this felt different. The eviction notice crumpled in her arthritic hands told a story she didn't want to read. 47 years of making brides beautiful, of being part of the most important day of their lives. And now it was ending not with celebration but with silence. She moved slowly between the rows of gowns, her fingers trailing over beadwork she had sewn by hand, remembering the faces of young women who had stood before her three-way mirror. Transformed by hope and love, each dress held a memory, a story, a dream that had walked down an aisle and into forever. But there was one dress that held more than memory. Hidden in the back corner, wrapped in yellowed tissue paper, hung a gown that had never seen its intended wedding day. A dress that had been waiting 48 years for its bride to return. A dress that would soon change everything in ways Miriam could never imagine. The bell above the door chimed weakly as a young woman stumbled in from the rain. Her dark hair plastered to her head, mascara running down her cheeks like rivers of grief. She clutched a soggy newspaper clipping in her trembling hand, an obituary that had shattered her world just hours before. In 3 days she was supposed to walk down the aisle. But now, with her grandmother gone and her family's fortune lost to medical bills and funeral expenses, she had nothing, no dress, no money, and a heart so broken she could barely breathe. "I'm sorry," she whispered to Miriam, who had looked up from her ledger with concern. "I shouldn't have come. I can't afford anything here. I didn't know where else to go." Miriam set down her pen and walked toward the girl, seeing something in her tear-stained face that made her chest tighten with recognition. Something that would unlock a secret she had carried for nearly 5 decades. "What's your name, dear?" "Sophia," the girl replied, her voice barely audible. "Sophia Martinez. My grandmother. She just passed. She was supposed to help me with my wedding dress. She saved for 2 years, but everything went to hospital bills and—" Sophia's voice cracked, and she covered her face with her hands. Miriam felt the world shift beneath her feet. Martinez, after all these years. Could it be? "Tell me about your grandmother," Miriam said gently, leading Sophia to the small velvet chair where thousands of mothers and grandmothers had sat, watching their daughters try on dreams. "Her name was Isabella Martinez. She came here from Mexico when she was young. Worked 3 jobs to support her family. She used to tell me stories about saving every penny to buy a wedding dress from the most beautiful shop in town." But then, Sophia looked around the boutique with wonder. Even through her tears, "Is this that shop?" Miriam's hands began to shake. Isabella Martinez, the name that had haunted her dreams for 48 years. Time collapsed like a house of cards, carrying Miriam back to 1976. She had been 24 then, newly married to her high school sweetheart David, and together they had just opened Miriam's bridal boutique with a small loan and infinite hope. The shop was their dream, a place where every bride, regardless of budget, could feel like royalty on her special day. Isabella had been one of their first customers, 19 years old, with eyes that sparkled like starlight and a smile that could light up the entire shop. She worked as a housekeeper for 3 wealthy families, cleaning their homes before dawn and after sunset, saving every dollar for her wedding to her beloved Miguel. "I want to look like a princess," Isabella had whispered in her accented English, her calloused hands touching the silk gowns with reverence. "Miguel, he says I am already beautiful, but I want to be beautiful like the ladies in magazines. Just for one day." Miriam had fallen in love with Isabella's spirit immediately. For months, they worked together designing the perfect dress. Isabella would come in after her cleaning jobs, often bringing homemade tamales for Miriam and David, and they would adjust the pattern, select the perfect lace, choose beads that caught the light like dewdrops. The dress that emerged from their collaboration was breathtaking, ivory silk with hand-sewn pearl beading, a cathedral train that flowed like water, and sleeves of the finest Chantilly lace. It was a dress worthy of any royal wedding, created with love, hope, and the combined dreams of 2 young women from different worlds. Isabella had paid for it slowly, dollar by dollar, over 8 months. Sometimes she brought crumpled bills that smelled of cleaning supplies. Sometimes she paid in quarters and dimes saved from tips. but she never missed a payment, never asked for charity, and never lost her radiant smile. The dress was supposed to be picked up on October 15th, 1976. The wedding was set for October 17th. But October 15th brought tragedy instead of joy. A drunk driver ran a red light on Maple Street, striking Miguel as he walked home from his job at the steel mill. He died instantly, taking with him not just his own dreams, but Isabella's as well. Miriam never saw Isabella again. She waited months, keeping the dress safe, calling the number Isabella had given her, but it had been disconnected. She drove to the address, but the family had moved, leaving no forwarding information. The Mexican community was small and tight-knit, but also protective of their own. When Miriam asked around, she was met with polite silence or was told that Isabella had gone back home. For 48 years, that dress had hung in Miriam's shop like a ghost of unfulfilled dreams. Sometimes, late at night when she was working alone, Miriam would unwrap it from its tissue paper and remembered Isabella's face, wondering what had become of the vibrant young woman who had trusted her with her most precious dream. Now, looking at Suffolk, seeing Isabella's eyes in this young woman's face, hearing the same hopeful catch in her voice, Miriam understood that some stories don't end. They just wait for the right moment to continue. Sophia, Miriam said, her voice thick with emotion. How old are you? 22, Sophia replied, confused by the question. Miriam's heart pounded. If Isabella had been 19 in 1976, she would have been born in 1957. If she had children after, the timeline fit perfectly. Did your grandmother ever tell you about a wedding dress, one she never got to wear? Sophia's eyes widened. How did you know? She told me that story 100 times. About the most beautiful dress in the world, made by an angel of a woman who treated her like family. She said it was her biggest regret, not just losing Miguel, but never being able to thank the woman who created magic for her. Sophia wiped her eyes. Grandmother said she tried to find that shop for years, but she was so young and heartbroken she couldn't remember the exact name or address. She only remembered it was on Main Street in a town with a red brick courthouse. Miriam's knees nearly gave out. She gripped the back of a chair for support. Sophia, I need to show you something. With trembling hands, Miriam led Sophia to the back corner of the shop. Behind a curtain that hadn't been drawn in years, wrapped in tissue paper that had yellowed with time, hung the dress. Even after 48 years, it was stunning, a masterpiece of craftsmanship and love that had never faded. Sophia gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. That's the dress from grandmother's stories. She described every bead, every piece of lace. She said it was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. Your grandmother was Isabella Martinez, Miriam whispered, and I am the woman who made this dress. I've been waiting 48 years for her to come back for it. The shop fell silent except for the rain against the windows and the soft sound of two women crying, one for dreams delayed, one for dreams inherited. She never stopped talking about you, Sophia said through her tears. She called you La Señora del Vestido Maggio, the lady of the magical dress. She said you treated her with such kindness, such respect. In those days, not many people did. Miriam reached out and touched Sophia's face gently. She was special. I never forgot her smile, her determination, the way she'd light up when she talked about Miguel and their future together. When she disappeared after the accident, I was heartbroken. I felt like I had failed her somehow. You didn't fail her, Sophia said firmly. She used to say that meeting you taught her that angels exist on earth. That kindness has no color, no language, no borders. She said you were one of the reasons she never gave up hope, even after losing Miguel. Miriam carefully unwrapped the dress, her arthritic fingers moving with the same reverence they had 48 years ago. The silk still shimmered, the beadwork still caught the light like captured stars. It was as perfect as the day it was finished. Sophia, what size are you? Size 8, Sophia replied, confused. Miriam smiled through her tears. So was your grandmother. This dress was made for her. But maybe it was really made for you. Maybe Isabella couldn't wear it because it was destined for someone else. Someone she loved more than her own life. I can't, Sophia protested. I couldn't afford this dress in a million years. And even if I could, it's not mine. It was made for her. Listen to me, Mija, Miriam said, using the Spanish endearment without thinking. Your grandmother paid for this dress, every penny, for 8 months. She brought me money she earned with her own hands, her own sweat. This dress belongs to the Martinez family. It always has. Sophia shook her head, overwhelmed. But the shop, you're closing. You need the money. I need something more than money, Miriam replied. I need to know that Isabella's sacrifice meant something. That her dreams weren't lost forever, that love finds a way, even across decades. As if in a dream, Sophia found herself in the fitting room, Miriam's gentle hands helping her into the dress that had waited nearly 5 decades for this moment. The silk slipped over her skin like water, the bodice fitting as if it had been made for her body, the train falling in perfect folds behind her. When Sophia stepped out to face the three-way mirror, both women gasped. The dress was perfect, not just the fit, but the way it transformed Sophia from a heartbroken girl into a radiant bride. It was as if Isabella herself was there, seeing her granddaughter fulfill the dream she had never been able to complete. "Grandmother," Sophia whispered to her reflection, "I can feel you here." Miriam stood behind her, tears streaming down her face. In the mirror, for just a moment, she could swear she saw not Sophia, but Isabella, young, hopeful, radiant with love. The circle was complete. But their story was far from over. 3 days later, the morning of Sophia's wedding dawned crisp and clear. Miriam had spent those days doing what she did best: alterations, adjustments, and adding her own special touches to make the dress perfect for Sophia's figure and style. She had insisted on doing all the work for free, calling it her wedding gift to Isabella's granddaughter. The wedding was to be held at St. Joseph's Catholic Church, the same church where Isabella and Miguel had planned to marry 48 years earlier. Sophia had shared this detail with Miriam, not knowing the poignancy of the connection. As Miriam carefully packed the dress for transport to the church, her phone rang. She almost didn't answer. She was too focused on making sure every pearl was secure, every piece of lace properly pressed. Miriam's bridal boutique. "Mrs. Chen, this is Father Rodriguez from St. Joseph's. I have someone here who insists on speaking with you. She says it's about a wedding dress and a young woman named Sophia Martinez." Miriam's heart stopped. Who is asking for me?" "An elderly woman. She's quite insistent. Says she's been looking for you for nearly 50 years. The phone slipped from Miriam's nerveless fingers. It couldn't be. Isabella would be 67 now. The obituary. Sophia said her grandmother had died. With shaking hands, she picked up the phone. "I'll be right there." 20 minutes later, Miriam stood in the vestibule of St. Joseph's Catholic Church, her heart hammering so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. Father Rodriguez approached her with a gentle smile. "She's in the chapel," he said softly, "praying. She asked me to tell you that some stories don't end. They just wait for the right time to continue." Miriam walked slowly down the aisle, her footsteps echoing in the empty church. There in the front pew sat a small figure dressed in black. Silver hair caught the morning light streaming through stained glass windows. The woman turned at the sound of footsteps, and Miriam found herself looking into eyes she had never forgotten, older now, lined with years of joy and sorrow, but still bright with the same inner light that had captivated her 48 years ago. "Isabella?" The woman rose slowly, her face breaking into the same radiant smile that had lit up Miriam's shop all those years ago. "Miriam, mi querida amiga, my dear friend, I told you I would be back for my dress." They fell into each other's arms, two elderly women crying tears of joy and relief in an empty church, while sunlight painted rainbow patterns on the floor around them. But Sophia said, "The obituary." Miriam was confused, her emotions overwhelming her ability to think clearly. Isabella laughed, the same musical laugh Miriam remembered. "Ay, Dios mío. You believe that, silly girl? I am very much alive, thank you. But I had to let her think I was gone. It was the only way." "I don't understand." Isabella took Miriam's hands in hers, hands that were wrinkled now but still strong. "Sit with me and I will tell you everything." They sat together in the pew where, in a few hours, Sophia would become a bride. After Miguel died, Isabella began, her voice soft but steady. "I was lost. Completely lost. I couldn't face the dress, couldn't face the dreams we had built together. I moved back to Mexico, to my family's village. I thought I would die there, that my story was finished. But you didn't die." "No," Isabella smiled. "Life, it finds a way to surprise us." 3 years later, I met Carlos, a good man, a carpenter, gentle like Miguel but different. He knew about my past, about the dress I left behind. He said that true love honors the memory of lost love. We married, had 3 children. I had a good life, Miriam. A full life. "Then why did you never come back?" "I waited. I tried." Isabella's voice cracked. "Many times, I tried. But every time I worked up the courage, something stopped me. Shame, maybe, fear. I thought you would be angry that I disappeared. I thought you would have thrown the dress away, and as the years passed, it seemed impossible that you would still be there, still remember me. I never stopped thinking about you, the dress. I kept it all these years. I couldn't bear to sell it or give it away. Isabella squeezed Miriam's hands. I know, Sophia told me everything 3 days ago, before her grandmother's funeral. You staged your own death? Isabella's eyes twinkled with mischief. Not death exactly, more like retirement. You see, Sophia, she is stubborn like her grandfather Miguel, too proud to accept help, even when she needs it desperately. Her wedding, she was going to cancel it because she had no money for a dress. She would have married in a borrowed outfit from Goodwill rather than ask anyone for help. So I became a ghost, Isabella laughed. I had my friend Rosa, who works at the newspaper, print a fake obituary, just for a few days, long enough for Sophia to feel desperate enough to seek help. I knew she would remember my stories about the magical dress and the kind woman who made it. I hoped, I prayed, that you would still be here. Miriam stared at her in amazement. You orchestrated this entire thing. Love finds a way, no? I could not wear my dress, but my granddaughter could, and I could finally thank the woman who showed a young Mexican girl that she was worthy of magic. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, 48 years of separation melting away like morning mist. Isabella, there's something I need to tell you, Miriam said quietly. The shop, I'm losing it. I can't make the rent anymore. After Sophia's wedding, I'll have to close. Isabella nodded sadly. Sophia told me, this breaks my heart. You have given so much joy, so much beauty to this world. It is not right that you should lose everything. I'm 72, Miriam replied. Maybe it's time. Maybe some stories do end. Or maybe, Isabella said with a mysterious smile, they just change chapters. Before Miriam could ask what she meant, the church doors opened and Sophia's bridal party began to arrive. Her sisters, her cousins, her friends, all chattering excitedly about the wedding. Sophia herself appeared in the doorway, radiant even without her wedding dress, surrounded by love and laughter. When Sophia spotted Isabella sitting in the pew, she let out a shriek of joy and confusion that echoed through the church. Abuela, what? How? You're supposed to be dead. Isabella rose with dignity, her arms open. Surprise, Mija, your Abuela is harder to kill than you think. The reunion was chicos, tears, laughter, rapid-fire Spanish, and gentle scolding from Sophia about the ethics of faking one's own death. But through it all, Miriam watched with growing understanding. This was what love looked like. This was what family meant. This was why she had saved the dress for 48 years. 2 hours later, as wedding guests filled the church and organ music began to play, Miriam stood in the bride's changing room, making final adjustments to the dress that had traveled through time to find its true purpose. Sophia stood before the mirror, transformed by silk and love into the bride she was always meant to be. Are you sure this is right? Sophia asked, touching the pearl beading with reverence. It feels like I'm wearing history. You are, Miriam replied, fastening the last button. You're wearing your grandmother's dreams. Her hope, her belief that love conquers all, but more than that. You're wearing your own future. This dress doesn't define you, you define it. Isabella, elegant in a deep blue dress suitable for the mother of the bride, approached her granddaughter with tears in her eyes. Mija, you are more beautiful than I ever dreamed of being. Miguel would be so proud to see the family his love helped create. Grandmother, Sophia said, I need you to walk me down the aisle. You and Miriam together. Without both of you, this day wouldn't be possible. Miriam protested. Oh no, dear. I'm just the dressmaker. This is family time. You are family, Sophia said firmly. You've been part of our family for 48 years. You just didn't know it. And so, as the wedding march began to play, 3 women walked down the aisle together, the bride, the grandmother who had waited nearly 50 years to see her dress worn, and the woman who had kept faith with a promise made to a heartbroken girl in 1976. The congregation gasped as they processed down the aisle. Sophia was luminous in a vintage gown, but it was the sight of Isabella, alive and beaming, that caused the real stir. Half the Mexican community had attended her funeral just 3 days earlier. The ceremony was beautiful, conducted in both English and Spanish, honoring both sides of Sophia's heritage. When the priest asked who gave this woman to be married, Isabella and Miriam answered together, we do. As Sophia and her new husband exchanged vows, Miriam felt a deep sense of completion. The dress had finally served its purpose. The circle was closed. The debt of kindness had been paid in full. But once again she was wrong. The story was far from over. At the reception, held in the church hall decorated with paper flowers and strings of lights, Miriam found herself surrounded by 3 generations of the Martinez family. Sophia's cousins, aunts, uncles, and family friends all wanted to meet the woman who had become a legend in their family stories. "You are la Señora del Vestido Majo," exclaimed a young woman who introduced herself as Sophia's cousin Maria. "Abuela Isabella tells us about you all the time, how you treated her like a queen when the rest of the world treated her like she was invisible." An elderly man, his face weathered but kind, approached with a beer in his hand and tears in his eyes. "Señora Chen, I am Roberto, Isabella's brother. 50 years she talks about you. How you saved her faith in people. How you showed her that America could be a place of kindness, not just hardship." Throughout the evening, Miriam heard story after story about how Isabella had passed down the tale of the kind woman and the magical dress. How it had become family legend, a story told to children and grandchildren about the power of compassion across cultural boundaries. "She never forgot your kindness," explained Sophia's mother, Carmen. "When any of us children complained about prejudice or meanness, Mama would tell us about Miriam Chen and the dress. She would say, 'The world has angels, you just have to look for them.'" As the night wore on and the dancing began, Isabella found Miriam sitting quietly at a corner table, watching the celebration with a bittersweet smile. "You are sad, Querida? Why?" "Not sad," Miriam replied, "grateful. This has been the most beautiful day. But tomorrow reality returns. I still have to close the shop. I still have to figure out what comes next." Isabella sat beside her, her expression serious. "Miriam, I have a question for you. If money were not a problem, what would you do with the shop?" "I don't understand." "Pretend with me. If you could keep the shop open, what would you change? What would you do differently?" Miriam thought for a moment, allowing herself to dream. "I would expand it. Not just wedding dresses, but a full service for women of all ages. Klein-era dresses for young latinas, mother of the bride gowns for women like us. Funeral dresses for those who want to be buried in dignity. I would hire young seamstresses and teach them the old skills. I would make sure that every woman who walked through that door felt beautiful, regardless of her budget or her background." Isabella nodded, smiling. "And if you could not run such a place alone? Well, I suppose I would need a partner, someone who understood different communities, different traditions, someone who could help me reach beyond my own experience. Someone like me?" Miriam looked at Isabella in confusion. "What are you saying?" Isabella reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope thick with documents. "I am saying that Carlos, my husband, God rest his soul, was not just a carpenter. He was a very successful contractor. When he died 5 years ago, he left me more money than I know what to do with. I am saying that my 3 children are all grown and successful, and none of them need their mama's money. I am saying that I am 67 years old and ready for a new adventure." Miriam stared at the envelope. "Isabella, I am saying that I want to be your partner. I want to buy this building, renovate it, expand it. I want to make it a place where every woman, Mexican, Chinese, black, white, young, old, and feel like a queen. I want to hire local seamstresses and teach them traditional techniques from both our cultures. I want to honor the women who raised us by creating something beautiful together." Miriam's hands trembled as she opened the envelope. Inside were architectural drawings for an expanded boutique, business plans written in both English and Spanish, and a check for more money than she had seen in her entire life. You've been planning this?" "For 3 days," Isabella laughed, "ever since Sophia told me about your troubles. You kept my dress safe for 48 years. Now I want to keep your dream safe for the next 48. "But why? Why would you do this?" Isabella took Miriam's hands in hers, just as she had in the church that morning. "Because 48 years ago, you saw me, not as a poor Mexican girl, not as cheap labor, not as someone beneath you. You saw me as a woman with dreams, with dignity, with worth. You treated me like family. Now I want to be family, real family." Around them, the party continued. 3 generations of Martins is celebrating love, faith, and the mysterious ways that kindness echoes across time. Sophia danced with her new husband, her grandmother's dress swirling around her like captured starlight. Children ran between tables, their laughter mixing with accordion music and the conversations of friends and neighbors. "Partners?" Isabella asked, extending her hand. "Partners," Miriam agreed, shaking it firmly. 6 months later, the grand reopening of Miriam Isabella's boutique was the biggest event Main Street had seen in decades. The expanded shop took up 3 storefronts, with dedicated sections for brides, quinceañeras, proms, and special occasions. A small alteration school occupied the second floor, where young women learned the art of couture sewing from master craftswoman Miriam Chen and traditional Mexican embroidery from Isabella Martinez. The shop's signature piece, displayed in a place of honor behind glass, was Sophia's wedding dress, no longer called Isabella's dress but the dress that waited. A small placard told its story. Sometimes dreams don't die, they just wait for the right moment to bloom. The day of the reopening, a line stretched around the block. Women of all ages and backgrounds came to see the shop that had become legendary in their community, not just for beautiful clothes, but for the story of friendship, faith, and second chances that it represented. Sophia, now 6 months married and working as a social worker in the community, was the shop's first official customer. She needed a dress for her job interview at the local nonprofit that helped immigrant families. Something professional but not intimidating, she told her grandmother and honorary grandmother as they fussed over fabric samples. "I have just the thing," Miriam said, pulling out a navy blue dress with subtle embroidered details. "Your grandmother taught me this stitching technique. It represents strength and hope." As Sophia tried on the dress, Isabella and Miriam stood back to admire their work, not just the dress, but the life they had built together. The shop was busier than ever. But more than that, it had become a community gathering place. A place where cultures mixed and friendships formed across language barriers and generational differences. "Do you ever regret it?" Miriam asked Isabella as they watched Sophia pose in front of the three-way mirror. "Giving up retirement to work with a stubborn old Chinese woman?" Isabella laughed, the same musical sound that had charmed Miriam 48 years earlier. "Regret? Mira, look around you. Look at what we built. Look at the young women learning skills that will feed their families. Look at the brides from every community who feel beautiful in our dresses. Look at what happens when friendship has no expiration date. Even when friendship starts with a dress that was never worn?" "Especially then," Isabella replied. "The best stories start with broken hearts and second chances." As the afternoon sun streamed through the shop windows, casting golden light on fabrics from around the world, Miriam reflected on the strange journey that had brought her to this moment. She had thought her story was ending with an eviction notice and an empty shop. Instead, it had been a new beginning disguised as an ending. The wedding dress that had hung in her shop for 48 years had done more than unite a granddaughter with her grandmother's dreams. It had woven together 2 families, 2 cultures, 2 women who had learned that love, whether romantic, familial, or the deep friendship between unlikely partners, really could conquer time, distance, and difference. That evening, after the last customer had left and the doors were locked, Miriam and Isabella sat in the shop's comfortable seating area, sharing a cup of tea and watching the sunset paint Main Street in shades of gold and pink. "Miriam," Isabella said thoughtfully, "do you believe in destiny?" "I believe in kindness," Miriam replied. "I believe that when we act with love, the universe finds ways to return that love to us, often in forms we never expected." "So you think Sophia was destined to find you?" "I think," Miriam said, smiling at her partner and dear friend, "that you raised a granddaughter brave enough to walk into a stranger's shop when her world was falling apart. I think you taught your family that kindness has no borders. I think you never stopped believing that good things could happen, even after great loss." Isabella nodded, content. "And I think you are the kind of person who keeps a dress for 48 years, just in case love needs a second chance." Outside, Main Street was coming alive with evening activity. Young families walked to dinner at the Mexican restaurant that had opened next door. Its success partly due to Isabella's connections in the community. Teenagers headed to the movie theater that had been saved from closure by the renewed energy on Main Street. Elderly couples strolled hand in hand, stopping to look in shop windows that were no longer empty. The dress shop had become more than a business, it had become a catalyst for community renewal. A symbol of what could happen when people chose bridge building over wall building, when they honored both tradition and change, when they believed that it's never too late for dreams to come true. As they prepared to leave for the day, Isabella paused in front of the glass case that held Sophia's wedding dress. "She looks so beautiful," she murmured. "She looked like you," Miriam replied, brave and hopeful and ready to believe in forever. "No," Isabella corrected gently, "she looked like us, like what we could have been if we had met earlier. If we had been born in the same place, if life had been different. Maybe we met exactly when we were supposed to," Miriam suggested. Maybe some friendships are worth waiting for. They walked out together into the evening air, two women whose lives had been transformed by a dress, a dream, and the radical act of seeing the divine in a stranger. Behind them, the shop settled into peaceful quiet, filled with dresses waiting for their own perfect moments. Their own stories of transformation, their own chances to prove that love, in all its forms, really can change everything. The dress in the glass case caught the last rays of sunlight, its beads twinkling like stars, holding the promise that tomorrow would bring new brides, new dreams, and new opportunities for magic to masquerade as ordinary kindness. After all, as Isabella and Miriam had learned, the most beautiful stories are not about perfect beginnings, but about love that refuses to give up, dreams that wait patiently for their moment, and the extraordinary power of ordinary human compassion to transform not just individual lives, but entire communities. And in a world that sometimes seemed short on miracles, that truth itself was miracle enough. The end. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to remember that kindness never expires, that it's never too late for second chances, and that the most beautiful things in life are often the ones we create together. What's the kindest thing a stranger ever did for you? Your story might be the miracle someone else needs to hear today.